Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of ChumChat. It's your boy Johan Gomez alongside a new co-host for now. If you haven't checked out our last episode, we talk more in depth about it. This is boy Chris Kuchar filling in for 10 while he's dealing with some personal things. And the star of the show today, Feyenoord on loan to Fortuna Sittard. My boy Cole Bassett. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, boys.
First guest of the new season. I mean, it's special, isn't it? I mean, you can't lie.
Yeah,
Definitely.
when
There's
I
something
got
in
the
the
invite,
air.
I jumped right on it. I other interview requests, I'm a little hesitant, but yeah, Chum Chat's always my number one podcast to go to.
That's what I love to hear. To be honest, though, throwing it back to part one. If you haven't seen part one, check it out. A lot has changed since then. I think Tanner also wasn't on that one. It was only me and Judson. But a lot has changed since then. You were playing for Colorado back then. This was back in 2020 when Corona hit, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
yeah, 2 years later, a little bit more than 2 years later, a lot has changed. What do you think the main thing you would say has changed about you personally?
There could be many ways I could go with it. I mean, football wise, I mean, when you're a young player and you got 2 years of development behind you now, and I think I've developed a lot as a player, especially coming to Europe. You learn so much over here. As a person, it's mentally, when you know it better than me because you've been out on your own longer. But yeah, when you got to move out on your own, it's you learn a lot about yourself. So that part's been fun.
Lots of people say like the rise to the top can be lonely at times, and that's obviously where you're trying to go. Are you feeling that lonely aspect of it a little bit over there?
Yeah, just a bit. These my parents were actually here last week, which was nice. But before that, oh man, some of these times over here by yourself, especially when it's not going well and you're not playing much, makes those weeks just a little bit longer. And you know, every single day is kind of a grind. But like you said, to get to the top, most people wouldn't do this, and that's why we're not most people. And that's why I think we'll continue to push forward while others might stay stagnant or drop off. So it's a part of the grind. But yeah, you enjoy it when you look back on it.
One thing I will say about Cole to the people who don't know too much is his mentality is killer. Obviously, if you don't know his story, he I don't know exactly all the details, but I know you didn't necessarily make the Colorado Rapids Academy from the jump. You were playing with Colorado Rush, right? And then
Yep.
you kind of just grinded your way through it, made the Rapids Academy, obviously made the jump to the first team, and now, I mean, you're in Europe. I mean, no small feat, playing for a huge club, a club that, made the Europa Conference League final last year. So, I mean, like I said, that's huge. But yeah, I mean, I think like you said, I can definitely relate to you in terms of the homesickness. Now, let's make a small note that this episode came out a week later, and we're blaming Cole's parents for coming to visit him because he said he had to spend time with them. But, I guess we'll let it slide this
Yeah,
time. But I wanted to ask you, now that you're at Sittard, did you have to move again, or are you able to stay at where you were staying in Feyenoord?
No, I wish, man. Rotterdam, I don't know if you've ever been, but it's a really good city. But yeah, I had to move. It's like a 2 hour drive, and from what I've heard talking to Mike, it's supposed to be pretty similar to where you're at. So I think we're living pretty similar lives right now in terms of very small town, nothing going on, purely football. And yeah, that's kind of what we're over here for, I guess. So there's really no distractions, which is nice. But at the same time, as a young 21-year-old, it's a little different than what most people get to experience.
You got that nice phone in the wall behind you. You can always reach out to other people, make some calls.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know what this thing is. I haven't seen it work at all since I've been here. So it's a weird place, man. It's like a retirement home city is where I'm at. It's
Holland in general, though, are you liking it?
Yeah, for the most part. I think this country is probably a lot easier to move to than like where Johan is in
More
Germany, just because
westernized.
yeah, everybody speaks English here, which is, I mean, I wish I could learn the language, but it also is nice just in terms of football. You understand everything that they say. And then yeah, like where I moved at the start, Rotterdam is very similar to an American city, so that place was actually easy to adapt to compared to other places in Europe.
Yeah, I have my boy Cole Bassett on Be Real, and if you could see the view from his Rotterdam apartment, I mean, he's living the life out there. I can't lie.
Yeah,
So I'm sure moving to a smaller
yeah.
city wasn't too easy. But so is that why your parents were there to help you move, or were you already settled in?
No, I was already settled in. My dad did well in his job, and his bonus was a free trip to Europe, so they paid for their flights over here, and yeah, they got to come visit me, which was nice. And like even though I'm in the middle of nowhere, there's so many like towns around me within like an hour and a half. So we went to Dusseldorf and Antwerp, Eindhoven, all these like little towns, and that part was nice because where I'm at right now, there's nothing to
How
do.
far are you from Amsterdam?
Probably like 2 hours, I think.
Gotcha. You've
Most,
been to the red
yeah,
light district yet? You done your time
yeah.
there?
I took my mom through it, and she had no clue we were
Oh,
going through
dude.
it. And I said, "Mom, look to your left." And then she looked over, and she was like, "Oh," like, and then there was a girl right there that was, yeah, obviously didn't have too much clothes on, so she was pretty mad at me after that one.
So you were having more of a good time than she was, I assume.
Yeah, yeah. Me and my dad were cracking up. I mean, those girls aren't like the best, but it was just pretty funny in the moment because she was pretty horrified at that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to talk about your preseason situation because, as you know, the people who don't know, me and Cole share the same agent, so I mean, you're updated with my situation as I am with yours. But Mike was telling me that it was a bit complicated. I don't know how much you could talk about this, but with FIFA, since you're on loan to Feyenoord, it's an 18-month loan, right? And then they were thinking about loaning you
Yeah.
out. Obviously, they did loan you out to Sittard. They said it could be a bit complicated because Feyenoord didn't actually own you. So then I just know it could have been a roller coaster. So talk me through that, how that process was, not necessarily knowing where you were going to end up for the season.
Yeah, it was really weird because I came over, and my main motivation was have a good preseason and try to be a starter at Feyenoord this year before the World Cup. And 2 weeks into preseason, I had a talk with the trainer there, the coach, and I just kind of, it was just a talk that he has with every player, and I voiced kind of what I wanted, and that was to be a starter throughout the year with the World Cup coming up. And um, in his eyes, he didn't see me as a starter yet. He saw me playing games for them, but not in the role that I wanted to. So he said, if you want to go out on loan, I'm not going to hold you back, and it'll be good for us to see you play week in, week out in the Eredivise. So yeah, he was kind of pushing for it, and it all happened pretty quickly at the start. Like within 2 weeks of preseason, I was already supposed to come here. But yeah, like you said, it kind of fell through for a bit. So then I was back at Feyenoord and continued the rest of the preseason there. And I ended up doing really well. I drew my last 4 games, and then I think they were a little bit more iffy to let me go at that point because I was doing well. But yeah, it came down to it at the end of the window that yeah we could make the deal happen. And yeah, I ended up here, and now it's been I think a month here. So yeah, at some points, I wish in my mind, I kind of wanted to stay and push for a spot there because I think I could have, earned a starting role there. But with the World Cup, I kind of got into that mindset, similar to Pepe, where like you want to go play and show yourself. Um, but yeah, at the same time, my first month here has not been what I expected. So it's not been quite linear, I'd say.
Yeah, but that's kind of the way it goes with footballers. It's not always linear, you know? So I think if anything
Yeah,
can get through
no,
it, it's
exactly.
you. And at the end of the day, you're still in the first division. It's a very competitive league. And I was going to ask you what you think about that league. I mean, even just this year has seen a lot of Americans go to it. You just mentioned Pepe, yourself. Obviously, you went there last year, but now you're at another team. Taylor, um, amongst others. I mean, the Mexican who's now your teammate, Santi Jimenez. So you see
Yeah,
more
yeah.
North American guys coming over to that league, maybe to develop and get pushed to other leagues. How do you see it, and how do you see the level of the Eredivisie compared to maybe an MLS?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the players, it's been cool to see, especially Feyenoord. Our GM was Dennis DeClose from that used to be at LA Galaxy. I don't know
Okay.
if you knew him at all, but he was the Galaxy GM when I was still playing in MLS. And he just brought over the San Jose left back as well from Peru, Marcos Lopez, and then yeah, we had Santi Jimenez as well. And it was just kind of cool for me to see that they're trusting like our part of the world to bring them over here and compete for championships and trophies. So I enjoyed that, and then yeah, I got to see Taylor last week, so we swapped jerseys as well. Because I know he's going through a tough spot right now as well, not playing as much. But yeah, it's cool to see Americans over here. And then yeah, MLS to Eredivise, it's just two completely different styles. Like the top 5 or 6, I'd say over here are above MLS. like the Feyenoord, PSV, Ajax, maybe throw in like Heerenveen and Twente. And then the rest, like towards the bottom, I would say MLS has an up on most of the teams, to be honest. But you're playing in a league with these big teams that are so far above the rest, and they're playing in Champions League and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, those clubs are crazy, and that's why you want to stay at Feyenoord. But sometimes you have to take a step back to take two forward. So yeah, I think it's different. MLS has more space and time to do what you want, and that's how all of Europe is. You know how it is. It's people are on you. You don't have as much time to do what you want to do.
Yeah, you see teams like Ajax yesterday going toe-to-toe with Liverpool in Anfield. Even, I mean, how motivating is it, just to change the subject a little bit, how motivating is it seeing players like in your team last year, Malacia, I mentioned, Sierra, the center back who went to Brighton, what's his name?
Yeah, Senesi.
Yeah. How motivating is it seeing those teammates of yours literally playing at now the highest level, the biggest league in the world? And do you feel like you can also reach those levels soon?
Yeah, I think so. Because when, I came in at a time, you could say it was a good time or a bad time. Because I came in when we literally probably went undefeated besides Ajax for the entire season. And we had, our team last year was stacked and we went to the conference final. You could say, oh, that kind of sucks because I never got to play as much as I wanted to. But at the same time, gosh, our team was a joke. I mean, you got Malacia, who's starting for United now. Sinistera, I think, is starting for Leeds now. He's starting to break in. And Senesi, he started a couple games for Bournemouth here and there. And then, I think we lost like 3 other guys as well that have went to different teams and stuff like that. But our first 11 was a joke. So it was pretty cool to be able to play with them week in, week out. And then you see them doing it in the Prem. And even guys like Brendan, like you played with those guys when you're growing up. So you can be there, but you do have to show it week in, week out because those guys, they have deserved it while they're there. But it is cool to see that you could be there as well.
You said you might not be exactly where you want to be right now in this exact moment, but take 5 years time, where do you see yourself?
I would hope in the Premier League. I think for me, my goal is the Premier League. As a young player, you always want to play in the top leagues. But yeah, like you said, the path isn't always linear. So you never really know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, I thought I was going to come here and play 90 minutes every single week. I think I've played 90 minutes total in 4 games. So yeah, that part's tough and mentally it's hard to deal with. But I think if you continue to work and like we talked about with the mentality piece, I feel like the ones that, can keep that piece straight and stay mentally focused, they're kind of the ones that continue to rise to the top eventually.
Yeah.
I just want to say,
one of your favorite teams growing up in the Prem, or how did that work out?
Yeah, I supported Arsenal when I was growing up. And I actually got to go on a trial there as well, which was nice. So, I mean, that part was pretty cool as a kid growing up, and then you get to go train with all these guys that you watch on TV every week. But now it's a little different when you get to our age because you never know where you could move. If you are playing well and the team wants you, so it's kind of hard to support a team now when you're playing professionally. But yeah, that was it when I grew up.
what do you think of the All or Nothing?
I love that documentary was. I love all those. Like we can relate to them so much with like the day in day out life. But I love the standards that they set because I was similar to Feyenoord, and then like I came here and I saw the difference between a really top club and then like just a regular Eredivise club or European club, and it makes you want to be there though. Like I don't know how it made you feel in terms of that stuff, but watching how Mikel coaches. Yeah, it seemed pretty cool, and it's where you want to work towards. I mean, I don't know how you felt watching that, but that's kind of what I was thinking.
I mean, I just feel like every documentary makes you want to be like a fan of that team because this is like so passionate. You feel like you're bonding with the players. Yeah, like you said, Mikel Arteta is in another world. I mean, what a coach. I think that's why they're doing so well now. It's cool to see. I wish honestly they would have done it this year because I played with Fabio Vieira in Porto and now he's there.
Oh, you did?
And yeah.
You can see
He played youth
like.
league with us.
Okay.
Yeah, see what he's like. I played with him a little bit in Porto B also, but yeah, I know he got his debut, I think, against United, I think it was, and he did pretty well. So it's always interesting to see. That's why I was asking you what you feel like with Malacia and guys like that, because guys like for me, Fabio Vieira and guys like that from Porto, seeing them do really well at the highest level is like it's kind of more of a motivation because you feel like you're that close, you know. You like
Yeah.
you train with them day in, day out. You don't tell yourself like, oh, I'm better than them or whatever, but you know like you're at
But
that
you could
level.
be there.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Were
exactly.
you at Vitinha as well or no?
Yeah, Vitinha. So there's a picture on my Instagram. They came down
Yeah.
in youth league, and Vitinha and Fabio Vieira were there, and Vieira was the captain. So I think it was insane. And Vitinha is I'm not gonna say much about Fabio Vieira. He's a great guy, but Vitinha was like
Yeah,
ultra
he's a
ultra
different level.
humble, ultra humble. Like yeah, and different
Yeah.
level too. Like I remember, you know how it is. Like at a high level, it can be kind of like cutthroat. They expect you to know how to do things. Like it's like if you lose the ball, they're gonna like kind of look at you, kind of think it twice before playing it to you. But I remember
Yeah.
Vitinha. It was my first game, I think, with them, and he was playing with us, and he was. I didn't really speak the language yet, so he came to me and spoke to me in
Yeah.
English, and he was telling me like where he needed me to move. And I thought that was so sick. And
Yeah.
obviously he is where he is now. But yeah, I mean, I think soccer gives football gives a lot of turns. The world of football turns a lot, so you never know where you're gonna end up. I was looking at because I keep up obviously with your season, but I didn't know Yilmaz plays with your team now. That's a pretty big player,
Mhm.
no? But he's pretty old now.
Yeah, I think he's late 30s, something like that. But yeah, he's played for a ton of big clubs. He won the Ligue 1 in France with Lille a couple years ago when they beat PSG. So, he's done it at a top level. He is older now, but yeah, it's just nice to be able to, get to know people that have been through the game and played at the highest level and kind of what you can learn from them and stuff like that.
I know for all of us, at least as a kid, you get so starstruck thinking about these big players. For me, I've even experienced this a little bit through my business, through this, other things. You get to meet them and they're really just normal people that you can talk to.
Hmm.
At
Yeah.
what point for you guys do you feel like you'll stop being starstruck kind of, or do you still feel starstruck when meeting these players?
Sometimes I think at the start, like I don't know if you're playing against players, you like during warm-ups, I feel starstruck. But then when I'm out in the game, I don't. If you're in training, I really think it just takes like one conversation and you're kind of out of
Mhm.
it. But then again, I've never been with like a, top player that's like, I don't know, a Ronaldo or somebody that's done it for that long. I guess Tim Howard, I did have Tim, and when I was 17, that was kind of, you know, as a young guy, this guy just at the last World Cup made like 14 saves or whatever it was versus Belgium. So you were a little starstruck by that, but all it takes, I think, is one conversation with a guy. Kind of like what
Mhm.
Johan just said. Vitinha, maybe I doubt he was starstruck because they're similar age, but like he comes down, one conversation in English, then you feel comfortable with him, or at least have some sort of bond. So I don't think it takes too long, especially once they respect you on the field as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, speaking of the World Cup, I'm sure you've seen the US roster dropped.
Yeah.
And you don't have to give an answer because I know you're a very like low key guy. But do you feel like there were any snubs on that roster?
I think, I mean, it's tough. The number 9 position's so
Lots
up
of
for
people are
grabs
mad
right now.
about Jordan.
Yeah, yeah. That I mean, because they're top of the league, right, in Germany.
Yeah, they are top of the league.
He's playing well
FIFA.
as well, but I know they don't want to give up on Pepe just yet, so it's tough.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm good. I mean, I'm not as good of friends with Pepe as you are. But I mean, it was at least good to see him get called back in. I was a little bit surprised that because he's only played one game recently, but that was good for him. I mean, that number 9 position's tough. Like I have no clue who's gonna go. Maybe Jesus is the only one that's like maybe
Josh has
ahead of
been
others.
playing well
But
too.
yeah, and Vasquez in MLS. I mean, you can't ignore the goals that he's been scoring. So I don't know those guys personally. I only know Jesus and Pepe. But that number 9 position was probably the only one where I saw snubs. But I mean, he's got to make a decision on who he wants. So it's a tough one. I think everything else is kind of self-explanatory. I don't know what do you think there was any that I'm missing?
Cole Bassett and Johan Gomez for me. But
I wish we could say that, but
Hey, they
if we're
might need to
being
consider
honest,
you for they might need to consider you for the 9 position because did you play with in a game where Jesus and Pepe played against Bosnia and weren't you the goal scorer?
the lone goal.
yeah, Yeah, yeah. I
I don't
mean,
know.
I haven't like I. It's one of those situations like we're talking about earlier where you play with these players, so you know 100% you could be there. Like I know I could be in that, but my performances I haven't played, and they don't validate being in there right now. So I wish I could say I was a snub, but I don't think right now I am.
I want to take a moment to honestly respect what you're saying because even when I wasn't playing and stuff like that, I had a hard time talking about it, especially on here. I think a lot of players, even I'm not gonna diss anybody, but when you reach out to players on here on ChumChat, they'll be like, when everything's going well, they'll be like, yeah, 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 like let's make
Yeah,
it happen. And all of a sudden, maybe a transfer happens or whatever, and they're not playing anymore, and they shy away from it. They don't want to talk about it
yeah,
anymore. They don't want to get in front of the camera. And I try to tell them, yo, we're gonna do our best we can to make you look good. We want you to talk about your situation. We want people to understand what you're thinking, what you're going through. And so I respect you for coming on. Obviously, we're boys, but yeah, I think a
hmm
lot of people kind of shy away from it. Even myself, it's maybe hard to talk about. But
Oh, it is, man.
going a little bit into that, how's your confidence right now? I know it can be tough when you're not playing. How's it?
Yeah,
How's it looking?
yeah. I mean, yeah, basing off of what you just said, like it is tough for some players because especially when you're overseas and even when just random friends ask you, how are you doing over there? How's the new situation? It's hard to respond sometimes because you want to feel like everything's going well, but yeah, it's really not. I mean, confidence for me, I actually do feel like that part is good. I've maintained confidence, but the situation that's happened here in the last month with I don't know if you followed up with any of this stuff, but a coach brought me here, and 3 days after I got here, he got fired. 3 games into the season. So for me, I mean, Europe is cutthroat, but I've never quite seen that cutthroat. Especially when we played Ajax the first game, which is a very good team. Twente the second game away, which is another top four team. And then we lost the first three. So I think it was a little bit weird to me to see the coach that brought me in here leave, and then we've had interim coaches along the way. But yeah, mentally it's been tough, man. I think you guys have probably hit me. If you talked to me on Sunday, you probably would have hit me at my lowest point, like throughout maybe the last couple of years that I've been in. But I mean, you guys caught me at I guess a good time to come on here because it's not always easy, like you said. I think it's good when certain people, you know, share their experiences about it's not always like this, like we talked about. It keeps going like this, up and down. You have all these highs, but the lows are just as low as those. So yeah, it's a weird situation.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, even myself included, I mean, I've had talks at length with Mike and other people along the way, my brother included, about,
hmm
how sometimes football can be not fair. Life in general isn't
Yeah,
fair, we know that. But, even some people will look at a guy and be like, man, he's living the dream, or he's making all this money, or XXX or whatever. But at the end of the day, what a lot of people don't realize is all we want to do is we want to play. Like no matter where
hmm
we're at, we just want to play. And so obviously, yeah, like you can look at the tangible things, the money or whatever, like what you see on social media or whatever it may be, but they don't see everything else is behind the scenes. You living away from your family, you having to move to a smaller city in the middle of the season to accommodate yourself to get into a new club, maybe not playing immediately. So I think that's important for people to know because you can't always talk about the great things that happen. When people ask you for interviews, they're like, yeah, so how is this new move? Like, how are you thinking about the World Cup or all this? But I think, yeah, it's important for people to see both sides. It's not all, glitz and glamour.
yeah, and like yeah, I don't want this. I know I'm the one being interviewed, but just looking at like what you did, like most people, like it's good to see that you were not concerned about what anybody else thought. Like for you, playing time is the biggest key, and like I respect like you see all these guys at Dallas, getting hyped up because they're in MLS and they like to hype the homegrowns up, and they're playing and they're close to home with their family. And you chose, Porto was a really good club, but after that, going to a small town in Germany, and you did really well last year, and then you were injured, right, in
Yeah.
preseason, or yeah, and then you come back and you score in the derby. But like these moves that you go do, and you're sacrificing so much being away from people, living in a small town by yourself, but you're doing it because eventually it's gonna get, hopefully where you want to go. But yeah, a lot of people don't realize how tough it is on young athletes, especially. We're on the complete opposite side of the world from our families, and we're trying to go for one goal. And yeah, social media, it's hard for some people to realize, what we're sacrificing, because everybody always posts the good stuff. They don't ever post the bad stuff that's never on the timeline. So I wish more
Exactly.
people could know that.
Exactly. And I appreciate those words, but this is more of a personal question. We have to keep this in. Do you have a girl?
I don't. I wish I did right now. Like, being in this small town, man, I wish I had a girl.
The girl
But
from the red lights district.
that might be too much for me. I don't know. I mean, it's tough having American girlfriends, though. I feel like I would have to have one over here, because like all the American girls our age are in university. So like they're not gonna move over here, and they're going to parties every weekend. So it's kind of hard to like, they kind of want to stay single. It's hard for them to do long distance. I mean, maybe if there's a girl ChumChat followers, just maybe hit the DMs or something.
Yeah, hit my boy Cole in the DMs. How is the scene there? Do you get recognized often when you're in Rotterdam?
In Rotterdam, yes. Here, no, not at all. Yeah, like I even got pulled over by police today, and they had no clue like who our club was.
Really?
Which, bro, do you in
gave me the
Germany?
ticket.
No, they gave me a warning. But do you have this in Germany? Your car has to be like, it has to have a checkup yearly so that it's able to drive. Like in America, we don't have that, but
It
it's
has to
like
be
a
like an
required checkup.
eco-friendly
Yes,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, something like that. But Sittard, the club, gave me a car, and I just got here a month ago, and they gave me a car that's like expired, like in terms of that. And then the police somehow like, I wasn't speeding or anything, but they pulled me over because they searched up my license plate, and I happened to just be driving next to them, and my car's not registered. So yeah, they pulled me over, and they didn't recognize me. But in Rotterdam, yeah, like if you walk throughout the city center, those fans they're the best, man. That's why I want to go back there so bad, because they really love the game.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but I could have sworn, Chris, can you confirm you do need a yearly checkup for your car in the US also, no? I swear you do.
I know. I know.
I've been driving
You got so
illegally,
long,
though.
you're out of touch. Yeah, you do. You do. You need to get your sticker. You need to.
Yeah, I was like, I could have
for you,
sworn.
man, but yeah, you definitely still need that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I've been driving illegally then, man. So that's not good. Plus, my U.S. driver's license just expired because I turned 21, so it just expired. So they were also like, your license expired. I was like, I'm screwed here. But I got let off.
That's good. Speaking of back home, let's touch on Colorado a little bit. Obviously, you still pertain to them. We were speaking to Kellen recently. Well, before we get into that, do you keep up with them? Do you keep up with MLS in Colorado?
Yeah, I normally watch, like, I'm bored here, so I'll watch the highlights on YouTube every week.
Who do you think will win MLS this season?
That's a tough one, because the LAFC I thought were so far and beyond everybody, but they've dropped off recently. I think it really depends on who gets in the playoffs in the West. I'm gonna take a team out of the West just because, I don't know, we've like, being in the West, I always felt like the West was tougher than the East. Maybe people like
Isn't
come at
Philly
me for
really
that,
good
but
though?
yeah, I feel like the top of the East is really good, but I feel like once you get like after six, I feel like all those teams like aren't as good. And like the West, even though like Houston's not like as good, but if you have to go away to Houston, like that's not an easy game in the middle of the summer. So I just feel like the West, like throughout the whole division, is tougher, especially when you have to go away to those teams. So I'm gonna go. Gosh, who's number 2 in the West right now? Austin. Oh no, I don't think it's gonna be Austin. I could see it being, bro. If Seattle gets in, I could see them making a run like they did I just don't
They
know if they'll
always
get
make a run though. They always end up in
They
the
got the
final or something.
DNA.
Yeah, I just don't know if they'll get in. I'm gonna go Seattle or Portland again.
That's a safe bet.
I don't know. Those two teams are always so good in playoffs, so we'll see.
Okay, now we gotta get. I don't know if this is a hard question, but so Kellen was very transparent with how he dealt with Colorado. I don't know if you watched that episode or saw any clips, but he was basically talking how, Colorado had kept him in the dark about certain transfer opportunities or whatnot, and he didn't know where his next move was gonna be. He wanted to leave to Europe. Colorado was like, eh. And so he ended up kind of leaving through or I think they traded him to LAFC
Yeah,
without
and
him
he was left
something
in
like
the
that.
dark.
Yeah, left
You
in the
found out
dark.
through social media. Do
Yeah.
you feel at times you might be left in the dark by some of the stuff's going on behind the scenes, or do you feel like they're pretty transparent about everything with you?
Colorado or just clubs in general?
Colorado.
No, Colorado with me was pretty transparent. I think I was in a different situation than Kellen. Like I was me and Sammy Vines they always called us like the face of the club. All the players joked like that, but I think we were treated a little differently than Kellen. And I'm really good friends with Kellen. I was with him during the time that was happening. We were at camp together, and yeah, I don't know exactly everything that happened, but it did seem a little bit tough in his situation because I know he's wanted to go to Europe for so long, but I don't know all the details on exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think also, I mean, I don't know what you think about this, but I think Mike has pretty good connections there with Colorado, so I think that could have helped also maybe facilitate the process. And I know you were pushing pretty hard, weren't you, to leave?
Yeah, I mean, like I loved Colorado, but at the same time, yeah, I wanted to go to Europe pretty bad, and I felt like it was the right time in terms of we helped the club. I mean, when I came into the league, we were dead last, and then we finished first last year, so I felt like I helped the club get to a point where they were doing well, and then I think it was time to move on. Uh, so I was pushing pretty hard, but if it didn't happen, I was still gonna stay in Colorado and be around my family for another year. So that's not the worst.
Feyenoord is crazy. When I saw that, I was like, damn, like that's a huge club.
Yeah,
So
I don't know if most people knew how big like even to be fair, like I didn't even realize how big of a club it was until I really like got here and experienced it. Like I heard about them a lot when I was younger, and I came here one time when I was like 13, but man, the size of that club and the passion of the fans, it's like most people, if I told them in America that even like new soccer, oh, I'm going to Feyenoord, they might be like, maybe I've heard of them. Like they'll say, oh, they're in the same league as Ajax, but they don't know them too well. But yeah, it's that club is they're a top club, man.
what's the main differences in like the level of the play or training that you saw between the MLS and the Eredivisie?
Uh, I mean, I can't really speak on it here because this club's been different. But at Feyenoord, uh, that coach, I would be very surprised if he's not in the Prem or some top league very soon because yeah, his training intensity, like I was used to in MLS, we'd normally train hard like a Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday is like pretty light. But and it was also more like bigger spaces, kind of what like the games are like. Like you have a lot more space and time on the ball, and it's more athletes and stuff like that. But at Feyenoord, it was so much tight spaces. Like we used to play 11v11 in like I swear it was like box on box. Like we had so many players in the tightest area, and he just emphasized being so good in tight spaces to break teams down. And it helped me a lot in that sense. And I do miss their training a bunch because it's so much like Rondo, but he teaches you how to play it the right way. So you actually like really enjoy it. It's not like going for megs and a bunch of flicks and stuff like that. Like you're really playing to like put 60 passes on the guys in the middle. And that way is honestly, I've enjoyed that a lot more.
What do you think it'll take for the U.S. to reach that level of a stage in football?
I mean, one maybe could do with the pressure in terms of like, I don't know if fans put enough pressure on clubs, and also there's no promotion relegation. So like, if you're a club at the bottom, like this year in MLS, like the teams that are at the bottom, they're not fighting to not get relegated and lose money. So I think there's not as much of a sense of urgency of what they have to do each week. But also, I don't know exactly what it is. Johan, I'd kind of be curious to see what you think in terms of like the difference for me is how much people put pressure on you and like how intense the matches are. But I don't really know how MLS could up that because like playoffs MLS is similar and there's very good players in MLS. But like throughout the regular season, sometimes games are not like at the highest intensity that they could be. But here it's like week in, week out. I
Yeah, it's
don't
like a
know how
war.
MLS could do that. Yeah. Like, do you
Yeah.
you think it is just promotion relegation? I don't know.
I mean, I think it has to be. I think I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think implementing that, I know it's the state of MLS isn't to that level yet where they can implement that because owners won't want to buy into
Yeah,
teams because they'll lose a lot of money or whatever.
yeah,
But I
100%.
mean, you're seeing Sacramento Republic going all the way to the US Open Cup final. Like the USL has a good level. So I mean, there's a good infrastructure in the USL. You're seeing when my brother played Louisville City, that stadium is crazy. Like that infrastructure of that
Yeah,
club is insane. So I think there is a future for promotion relegation, and I think that's how it has to be because once you implement promotion relegation, every game will matter. Like you won't be able to have, and I haven't seen Gareth Bale play. I just happened to read a tweet before getting on this that people were saying that he's looking lazy and not really caring. So you can't have those, you can't buy into those players anymore. You're gonna have to do your research and say, okay, will this player die for my team if I need him to? Or is he just a guy who's like here to collect some money, go play golf, stuff like that. So I think that definitely would take the league into the next level. I know they're probably quite a ways away from that, but I think whatever people can do to push that, I think it would be super important for the league and the country in general. Once you're pushing that mentality in within the whole footballing world in America, I think people will understand that because once you get to Europe, I don't think people really understand what a relegation battle is like. Like you don't really understand the pressure that you're under. Um, like
yeah. I
people
mean,
lose
what?
jobs.
How is your team this year? Like, because
My
me and
team,
Tanner are going, or Tanner's not going through it now, but he did last year, and then I am this year. I don't. How is your team
so my
in the
team
table?
didn't go through it that much last year. Right now, we're supposed to have a weaker team, so we're projected by like everyone to get relegated this year. We're like
Mhm.
mid-table right now, kind of. That's where we ended last year, and that's really good because we have one of the smallest budgets in the league. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. That's the main thing. A lot of teams, I don't know if you've heard or if your club is like this, but a lot of teams are like, okay, our goal is to stay in the league. We're not really looking for promotion or anything else, anything special. Like, let's stay in the league because we need that money. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though. That's the culture. Every club is different, but it means the same to every club, just
Mhm.
to fight. And so I think that's the main difference. I mean, how do you feel? We spoke about this with Arner, Tanner's friend who played at Venezia. He was a lone player at Venezia. Obviously,
Mhm.
it's still new in the season, but you could find yourself in a relegation battle. How do you see that as a lone player? Like, are you able to feel that as much, considering you're not a full-time part of that team?
Yeah, I think you have to. Like, especially like we have some pretty good fans actually, especially in one section here. And I think if you're at a club and you don't like buy into what they are as a club and buy into their history and their fans and just their culture, then I don't think you should really be there. Because I mean, if you're just totally invested in yourself while you're there, yeah, it may benefit yourself, but I think you'll benefit more from it if you really buy into what you got going on there. So for me, I mean, yeah, right now we're bottom of the table right now. We haven't won a game in 6 games. So I do want to help this team get where we should be, and we definitely have the players to be a mid-table team. But yeah, it's a tough spot right now for us. So we're gonna have to fight out of it, and we definitely feel the pressure. We've had 3 coaches already this season, so it's been there's been a lot of pressure from fans. But I think you enjoy it as a player sometimes. Like it is hard at the bottom of the table compared to the top, but pressure is pressure, and that's kind of what we live off of.
So we
Yeah.
talked about the importance of pro rel, obviously, for U.S. soccer. Um, do you think that having other sports above soccer, football in the U.S. can kind of conflict with that?
Hmm.
Because
Yeah, I think it's tough because over here, I mean, if you look at some of these athletes that are playing for some of these top clubs, there's no way they'd be playing soccer in the U.S. I'm
mhm,
trying to think of a big
like,
team.
but
Like
for
even if
example,
you, yeah, you have one.
yeah, I mean, the other way around, if you took LeBron James and put him in goal, I don't think,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Or like I don't know how much you guys are paying attention to the NFL, but if you put Tyreek Hill he trained soccer his whole life and went on the wing,
yeah,
things might look very different. Whereas over there, you guys might not have that. I know another big thing is I'm living that college life as we discussed before. I go to a big SEC school, University of Arkansas Whippig. Um, that is probably the only sport that I see where the fans can kind of get close to the level of where you guys are reaching in Europe for soccer.
hmm,
I know college sports, and that's a lot of that is because everybody's in the same hometown. with the U.S. being spread out, like, for example, for football, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, but Johan, I assume you were the same, but we live miles and miles and miles away. You think the U.S. landscape could be a reason for that as well?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, where you grow up, but I don't know. I just think Europe, they live and breathe one sport, so it is tough. Like those definitely do conflict. But yeah, like
Like,
I was saying, like
is a
some of
guy
these
from Wyoming, finna be like a footballer type thing? You know what I mean?
no, yeah,
Shout out my
yeah,
Wyoming guys if y'all are watching. I don't know. Like that was the first state I thought
yeah.
of, but yeah, you don't
Yeah,
really
it's
see
it's
that.
got to be the area. It's got to be the area you grow up in. But it's like over here, all they know is football. So I don't
Mhm.
know. But yeah, the guy I was thinking of, if we go to Germany, like Bayern center back, Dio
Upamecano.
Upamecano, like
Upamecano.
he's not playing soccer if he's in America. There's no
Yeah.
way. So yeah, I mean it's just that those type of things. So that's why I think they have an advantage because everybody plays soccer, but we also do have so many people in America. So I think that's why we're catching up eventually.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I think it's been great so far. I'm gonna wrap it up so I can let you watch Champions League. But with just one more fan question here, and then just one more personal one. But someone asked, "What's your formula of success for football?"
Mm, It's going back to the original chum chat right there.
Well, I still gotta ask you that
Yeah,
one, but this is
yeah,
this is
yeah,
a fan one.
yeah. It's close to it. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's all about what I can control. I think, especially what I've learned in the last month is there's been a lot of things that I haven't able to process really well in my head, and it's all been out of my control. It's stuff that was going on outside the scenes with other people, and for me, the things that I can solely work on is how much work I put into it off the field in terms of my body and in the gym and stuff like that, and then also, after training on the pitch. So I think those two things are the things along with my mentality that continue to give me success and hopefully give me success in the future.
That's a good answer. And now I have to ask you our signature question.
Yeah.
What is your definition of success? And do you think you've achieved it yet?
Not even close to achieved it. And, hopefully when you look back at your career, you can say you achieved it. But even then, I still feel like a lot of players, if they really are ambitious, I don't think they'll look back and say they achieved everything they wanted to. But for me, with what I want to achieve, success is so far away from it. And, maybe I'll go to have you ever seen the quote from Matthew McConaughey of like, I'm chasing that me of 10
Myself
years
in
from now.
10 years. Yeah. Of
Yeah,
course.
exactly. I mean, yeah, for me, like in 10 years from now, I want to be able to say I played at a World Cup and played in Champions League and being a consistent starter in Europe. But for me, success defined, I think when I look back on my career will be, what I put into the game. I think if I had to sum it up in a simple sentence, if I give everything that I have, with my mentally and also physically, I think, I'll be able to look back and say, I had success with what I've done.
I like that.
Maybe
It's
it's
a good
not maybe it's
answer.
not the best answer, but the Matthew McConaughey, looking 10 years ahead, I feel like it'll just never be satisfied. Success
That's the
is
thing.
it's hard to reach, man. Have
That's
you
the
ever read
thing.
Tim Grover before, his books? He was Michael Jordan's trainer.
I don't think I have. Are you putting me on right now?
Yeah, if you want to read like a good book on like mindset, I just finished one of his books, and like, yeah, his biggest thing is the book was all about winning, and it's like winning puts you on a pedestal, when you get there, and it feels so good, but it gets taken from you so quick. I mean, if I just look at my career, I get called in the national team, I score my first goal, I move to Feyenoord, I'm on top of the world. I haven't started a regular competitive game in like 8 months. Or I guess I just did, but for like 8 months, I didn't start. And it's like you're at such a high point in your life, but then, the lows, it just takes you right back down. And it's so hard to get back to that success, but it's the journey along the way. You have to enjoy it because that's the part that makes winning so much sweeter and the success. So maybe that's a better answer than my first
That's a
one,
good
but
answer. It's a good answer.
yeah,
And I want to shout out
yeah.
my mom real quick because she has a good saying, and it kind of goes along with what you were saying. And to all my athletes out there that are coming up, that are watching this, I know some ballers watch this. Shout out Caden Clark. I know he said he's a big fan of ChumChat. But yeah, if you're coming up, my mom always says, don't step on people on your way up because you're gonna find them again on your way down. And so that's so true. I mean, if you're going on your way up, stay humble, stay, 10 toes down, because like Cole said, as you can look at so many examples, you're not gonna be there forever. Even Ronaldo, he's been there 20 years. I don't know how long, 15 years, and he's, finally declining a little bit. So, you always got to stay humble and true to yourself. And I think Cole's a prime example of that. So that's why you guys are going to see him succeed. But I think we've kept him on for a while now, a solid hour. So if you guys like the episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll pop up Cole's socials throughout the video. So you have his Instagram, and everything else will be linked in the description. If y'all liked Chris as a co-host, make sure to show him some love in the comments. And yeah, ChumChat is back, baby. Let us know who you guys want us to interview in the DMs. And as we always say, go find your own success. Deuces.